Alrighty, so I'm battling nonstop allergy right now on this Wednesday afternoon. It's time to do a News of the Week episode and also do a quick preview of the one game that we're going to be seeing tomorrow in MLS. Yes, we're going to have a rare Thursday game between NYCFC versus Toronto that we'll talk about near the end of this News of the Week episode. But the first news we're going to talk about is Toronto. So it finally happened. This has been a thing that I think it's been a long time coming, and it's a thing that I think every TFC fan feel like this has to happen in terms of really uh, give a huge injection in terms of this deep rebuild that they're going through. And that, of course, is that they finally terminate the contract of Federico Bernadeschi and Lorenzo Insigne. I mean, these two contract is going to go down as the worst ever contract we have ever seen in league history. And I will say this, I am maybe a little bit surprised the fact that they decided to get rid of Bernadeschi. I mean, I had no doubt that they had to get rid of Insigne, but at least Bernadeschi was still fine with this team. He still put in the work ethics. Now, numbers obviously is nowhere close in terms of justifying the money that they, of course, own, but the fact that he still give the effort and he still regularly appeared for this TFC side, unlike the other Italian that is clearly not has no interest in terms of doing that. I was kind of surprised that they decided to let go of both of them. But it just kind of you just had a feeling that it's either both of them or they're just gonna keep this albatross of contract on their books, and that with the way that they finally have a time to use those buyout outs that they of course are given. You knew that this inevitable fate was going to happen. So now, obviously, not only that get rid of two of the biggest black hole in terms of the roster, and also have now taken TFC for having one of the most expensive roster in MLS to one of the least expensive roster that they have in the book. But now that definitely opens up room for them to make some signings in the summer transfer window, and especially open those two DP spot and a chance to really put a huge injection in terms of this rebuild. I mean, I think so far when you look at this season for TFC, I know Toronto fans are kind of very frustrated in terms of this season, but this was expected. Like, we knew that heading into this season, especially with what they did in the off season. It feels like they're just kind of almost back to the square one with this deep rebuild that they're going through. That you knew that it was going to be a rough season, and I think it has gone better as the season goes along. They have definitely played much better and being more competitive in some of these games. And now the fact that they finally got rid of two of the biggest black hole in their roster, and the fact that they're able to now able to spend some money on DP to try to improve the roster. This is a huge win for TFC fan, and as I said, it's a huge shot of injection in terms of them getting out of this deep rebuild sooner than they need to do. But now it's all about whether or not if they can make these DP signing correctly, because as we've seen in the old regime, they made some very reckless decision in terms of making these DP signing, and that's kind of the reason why they're in this situation right now. This deep rebuild that they're in, and this downturn that they've been in, is by no accident. I mentioned many times that with what the old regime has done in terms of the decision that they make has really set the franchise back in years. I mean, it's no joke. Like, this team is still trying to get themselves out of this situation, but these two players leaving and then finally getting rid of the biggest black hole in their roster in terms of the contracts that they're giving out. That's going to really help with this team in terms of getting themselves better than sooner than what we thought that they would be. Now, there is a report suggesting that coming out of Argentina that Messi could be considered playing somewhere else 6 months leading into World Cup. Now, this is a bit of a conflict that soars. We don't know exactly if this indeed is going to be true. And anytime when there's rumors surrounding Messi, and especially whether or not if he's going to be re-signing with Inter Miami heading into the 2026 season or not, yeah, it's a little bit murky. And I think this offseason, Miami's got a big decision to make in terms of Messi. He does have an option into the 2026 season, and ideally, obviously, they would love to see Messi re-sign with Inter Miami. Not just the fact that I'm pretty sure Apple TV CEO and also Don Gabriel are just praying to Messi to stay in terms of continue the the cash cow that is going on with his impact in terms of being in this league. But it's just in general with the way that they are moving into a new stadium. This would be a great way for Inter Miami to, of course, make their debut in their new season with the GOAT still being there. So yeah, we'll see whether or not this offseason the decision is going to have to make whether he's going to be staying or not. There's no doubt that I think he still have something left in the tank to play in the 2026 World Cup, which most likely is going to be his last World Cup in his professional career. But at the same time, I can understand why he wants to maybe play somewhere else, especially play in a more competitive league. Not saying MLS is not a competitive league, but if he's trying to face against the best of the best, and especially with the way how Inter Miami has been kind of run lately, yeah, I don't blame the fact that Messi wanted to join a team that may be playing a more competitive league, so he can get that competitive edge, so that he could be ready to get himself into the Argentine team and looking to defend their World Cup title that they won back in 2022 in Qatar. Now, one player that we know for sure is not coming back from Inter Miami heading into next season, that is part of Messi and friends, is Luis Suarez. And he's actually saying that he's considered retirement and will not renew his contract with Inter Miami. Now, knowing the fact that he's had some injuries concerned, especially with the way that ever since he to uh, went to the Inter Miami and joined this team a year ago. He's been pretty much playing with just one leg. I mean, it's kind of surprised how much that he still lasted, and the fact that he's actually been pretty good. I thought he was gonna be having an injury riddle kind of time with Inter Miami, but for the most part, he's been healthy for most of the game. But obviously, you can kind of tell that father time is starting to catch up to him. I mean, this season was a great example of it. You can clearly see that his body was breaking down, and like I said, with him not renewing his contract, there is definitely some consideration that he might just hang up his boot. And if that, of course, is the case, we're looking at one of the greatest number nine to ever play this game. Uh, that of course will have hung potentially will be hanging up his boots at the end of this season. Now, moving on, we got talk about some signings that has happened, because there were a couple of signings that has happened this week, starting with Austin FC signing midfielder Nick Belico from FC Luzern. Now, from what I heard from this signing, it seems like this is more of a depth signing for Austin FC. Their midfield is pretty good in terms of when you look at it, the depth chart. So it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt the fact that they can add more depth. And I don't know too much about this guy, but we'll see whether or not if he's just going to be more of a depth piece, as a lot of Austin FC fans were saying, and maybe he might even battle for some spot of getting some starting minutes for this team. And then Atlanta United, they have signed Albanian defender Inia Mihan, and I think that's how you pronounce his name. I might have just absolutely butchered that, but at the same time, this has been a signing that I've mentioned before. You knew this was going to happen. Atlanta, this summer transfer window, it's going to be tricky for them, because right now, I mean, as much as they want to add the on their attacking pieces, they kind of can. I mean, when you look at the contract that they hand out, it feels like they're in the same situation as Toronto is right now, where there clearly is some black hole in their roster, and some of the players that earns the most, and especially that $50 million attack, is not performing whatsoever. They're just praying the fact that it can figure itself out as the season goes along. So with the way that they kind of are handcuffed themselves in that spot, the improvement that they probably will need to is got to be in the midfield and the defensive department, because besides the fact that the attack has been woeful this season, the defense has also been absolutely horrendous at times this season as well, especially in the center back position. So getting a guy like this, hopefully that will improve this Atlanta defense enough heading into the rest of the season. And then Charlotte FC, they have signed Pep Biel loan through the 2025 season with Olympiacos. Now there isn't a option to purchase him outright by the end of the season. I have a feeling that's going to be exercised. I mean, it's been an incredible year for Pep Biel. He's definitely been live up to the price tag that he of course got. It'll be interesting to see what the price tag is going to be. It's probably not going to be a cheap price tag for Charlotte to purchase him outright, but I have a feeling with the way that he's been simply there, they're their best attacker this season for Charlotte. Do not be surprised that they're going to be purchasing that right by the end of the season. And then moving on to some transfer rumors. So the Columbus Crew is in talk to sign Hugo Picker from Green in League Two. Now Columbus is a club that is no stranger when it comes to bring players from League Two. They already brought Dylan Champolt from League Two as well last season, and we also saw them bring in Steven Moreira recently from League Does. So, and most of those players turns out to be very successful under Wilfred Nancy's system. So, yeah, if Wilfred Nancy definitely see a guy that he thinks that can fit in the system, you know he's probably going to be very good. And especially this is also a signing that feels like it's a potential replacement for Max Armstead. With the way that Max Armstead, he seems like he's getting some offer in Europe right now. There could be a case that yeah he might be sold off for a big amount of money, maybe even as soon as the end of this season or even in the summer transfer window as well. So this would be a perfect replacement for him if that, of course, indeed is the case. Now, Argentino Juniors is report to complete the signing of Portland Timbers left back Claudio Bravo and also are looking to loan Quakes number 10 Hernan Lopez as well. Now, for Claudio Bravo, you know, his time with the Timbers, it's been meh. I mean, it hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been spectacular, whatsoever, and that you just kind of had a sense of it. His time with the Timbers are probably going to be running short, and it feels like this, of course, is the case. Now, when it comes to looking at the Quakes number 10, Hernan Lopez, yeah, I mean, this is a classic example of what happened when a new coach comes in, and you know, even though a player works well in the previous head coach, that of course got fired. When the new head coach comes in and really revitalized the team, unfortunately, he kind of get left as a passenger, and that's kind of the case with Hernan Lopez. I mean, he was so good doing it his time before Bruce Arena comes in, and it just feels like he never really fit into the Bruce Arena system. Now, it also doesn't help the fact that he did get injured in the beginning of the season, and we talked about so many times before when players suffer an injury, you know, they might not look the same when they come back, and this might be an example of it. I mean, he has not looked like the same player that he is last season, and with all the hype that was surrounded with him coming into the league, and really did so well, and a guy that I thought he was kind of the Carlos Hill kind of prototype that Bruce Arena seems to want when he's trying to build the New England Revolution of the West heading into the season. It just really never live up to hype. Instead, guys like Christian Espinoza has really kind of took that spot away from him as well. So yeah, with him going to on loan, maybe that will help him rediscover his old form. And you know, if the Quakes are thinking about bringing him back, you know, we'll see whether if he can be recapture his form that he had last season. Because with how good he was last season, I thought that was one of the rare time that the Quakes get a DP that actually worked out for once. And we know the history of this team when it comes to their DP signing. It's been iffy at best in terms of all the signing. There's been a lot of bus out there in terms of DP signing that the Quakes have, and unfortunately, it feels like Hernan Lopez is another latest victim of the numerous bus DP signing that the San Jose Earthquakes have done over the years. Now, moving on to talk about news that's not related to transfer rumors or signings. Sounders owner Adrian Hano has announced that owners and players have come to an agreement over the Club World Cup bonus. Now, this is kind of an interesting headline because when I read the article, it was very vague in terms of what exactly they come to an agreement and what exactly the bonus is. And you know, this has been a big talking point before the Club World Cup began, where you know there's been a lot of this agreement between the players, and especially the players association and the league itself and the owners as well in terms of how they would share this World Cup or this Club World Cup bonus that each of these team participants in, and it got so ugly to a fact that you know Sounders player even protest in terms of this in the game before they play against Minnesota, and the Sounders owner Adrian Hanu, he was the guy that actually confronted the players when it comes to that protest as well. So it's kind of interesting that he's kind of almost took a complete 180 in terms of it. And again, you know, because of the fact that it's very vague, they don't really tell you exactly what exactly the amount it is. You assume that it's a fair amount, and it's not one of those situations like we've seen with the CBA ratify where the owners are almost kind of put a gun in the head of the players and basically saying, "Yep, sign this, or else we're going to have a lockout and we're going to lose lot of money as a resort, and there could be serious consequences that can damage this league. But we'll see if that is the case, or the fact that they really come in a good faith kind of agreement that you know the players are able to get the fair amount of bonus that they of course were looking for before this tournament began. Now the Portland Timbers, they have actually now purchased their training facility site, and now are looking to try to plan for expansion. So it's kind of interesting that they actually don't own their training facility site, but now they actually do with purchasing outright, and now they have a chance to expand as well because they did purchase land around it. And it's great to see that whenever a MLS team is looking to expand and improve their training facility, it's hard to believe that in a span of just 5 to 10 years, a lot of these teams have built themselves their purpose-built training facility, and some of these training facility are just absolutely world class, and and that there's no doubt that as this year goes along, we're going to see more teams that are going to do so, and the Timbers, of course, are one of those latest teams that are improving their training facility. And then one thing I want to also mention is the fact that the game between the U.S. versus Costa Rica, it actually netted a record 1.8 million in viewership, and at one point it actually peaked around 2.8 million, which is actually the highest for a non-final Gold Cup match in Fox Sports history. And this kind of just shows you the fact that with the way that I know when you look at U.S. games and there's very low attendance, and people are saying that, well, it looks like the interest toward the national team is at its all time lows. Nobody's going to the game. It's a clear shown that is the case, and especially with the way that the team has really kind of started to hit rock bottom these last couple of months, losing in games that they shouldn't, and getting embarrassed in these friendly as well, that the general public interest is going to die down, right? Well, that could be hardly from the truth. And this is also where I do think that the interest toward the national team is still strong. And obviously, I think that when you look at the interest as well, and for the better or worse, you have the optimistic side of the fan base that are still watching the game, but you also have the negative side and the doomers out there that are still keeping an eye on the U.S. and find every ways to complain about this team, and even said that, well, yeah, that performance against Costa Rica was absolutely pure garbage, and they got lucked out in a big way in a PK shootout. But either way, it's good the fact that the interest hasn't died down whatsoever, even with the poor run of form that the national team has gone through. And the empty stadiums that we have seen U.S. game, a lot of that isn't because of the fact that there's no interest. A lot of that is because of the high ticket tosses that is going on. I mean, the tickets prices for some of these U.S. game, and even in some of these friendly games, are absolutely ridiculous. It's gone out of hand to a point where some of the most diehard U.S. fans are not going to pay like $100 to go to the game. If they would have lowered those prices, I guarantee you they would sell out the stadium. Heck, if they even lowered the prices by half or even a third, I'm pretty sure they could sell out an NFL stadium. The interest is definitely there. It's the tickets prices that has been a big problem, and that this is kind of one of the biggest criticism with the U.S. Soccer Federation, and even CONCACAF, I would say, because I can't really blame the U.S. for setting up these high ticket prices, because they're not the one that asked for it. It's CONCACAF the one that sets the prices itself. But for these non-Gold Cup games, when I see empty seats in the stands, a lot of that is just mainly because fans are not going to these games, because they're not going to pay like $100 just to see the U.S. play a C team against a lowly opposition that they might get absolutely blasted as well. Now, moving on into the last news before I talk about the preview between NYCFC and Toronto FC. So this is kind of an interesting news that I wanted to bring up, and that, of course, is North Jersey USL Club is looking to try to carry the brand name Cosmos as they make their debut into the 2026 USL League One season. And what the reason why this is very interesting is that there's been a lot of talks of whether or not if the New York Cosmos were going to be coming back to to the lower league game. Obviously, the New York Cosmo. This is probably one of the most recognizable name in American soccer, and maybe even in world soccer as well. I mean, the New York Cosmo will always be tied itself as kind of the pioneer in terms of American soccer. If the New York Cosmo didn't do what they did in the 70s, bring in some world class player like Pele and even friends back and back or to play in the NASL, I don't think the American soccer landscape would be this strong in the present day. They were a true pioneer and a true just kind of a kickstarter in terms of the growth of the American soccer culture that it had in the late 70s and carrying into the 80s as well. Now, obviously, things have kind of felt hard times for the New York Cosmo. We've seen two iteration of that. We saw the most recent iteration play ill-fated NASL that lasted until 2017. They also played it in the National Independent Soccer Association, also known as NISA. Obviously, that league didn't go so well, and to a point where in 2020 they just said that, well, we're gonna put ourselves on an indefinite hiatus. Now, what's kind of interesting is that when it comes to this team, this is a brand new team. That is, I don't think this is a team that's gonna really carry the history that the New York Cosmo, of course, made, or unless if they're just gonna call this like the third iteration of the New York Cosmo, which I mean, I guess what's kind of interesting is the fact that in the original iteration of the New York Cosmo, they actually didn't play in the New York City area. They actually play in the Meadowlands, play in Giant Stadium, which obviously isn't in New Jersey. So this is not really that far off in terms of some of them playing in a place where they're going to be playing in Patterson, which is not that far from where the Meadowlands is. But again, it's kind of weird the fact that this team is looking to trying to call themselves the Cosmo, and especially do they have the rights to do so? Because I'm pretty sure the previous owner that carries the New York Cosmos name, they still have all legal rights and trademark to that. I don't know if they have to purchase that right outright, and whether if those previous owner would be able to let this new team to carry the Cosmos name, that is. But either way, it's very interesting to see that of course is the case, and if it is going to be the case, I mean, it's great to see that the Cosmo name is brought back in the lower league game. And I feel like in an alternative universe, the New York Cosmo would exist if they simply just decided that, you know what, we're gonna go into the USL as well. I just never understand why the New York Cosmo decide not to go to the USL championship. We've seen a lot of teams that when they went into the NIS, the NISA league itself. A lot of those teams are now playing in the USL Championship. Like teams like the Oakland Roots, when they were one of the founding member that is, they're now in the USL Championship. And even Detroit City, when they were playing in that league for a bit, they're now in the USL Championship as well. I would have thought that the New York Cosmo would follow the same suit to play in the USL Championship. And sure, yes, it's not something similar to what we see back in the 70s or so forth. But really, the second iteration was just a team that not only want to bring that name back to the modern age, but also just continue to play in the lower leagues. And the with the way that they've been participating in the NASL, which is on the same tier of the USL Championship, it is kind of still a big mystery of why did they just jump from one ill-fated second division to just jump straight into the USL championship itself. I'm pretty sure there may be some legal issue that I don't know of, but ideally, I feel like that in an alternative universe, the New York Cosmo name will probably still exist if they were still playing in the USL championship, especially with the way that they actually have a chance to now potentially play in the first division, with the way that the USL has already made their intention that they are going to rival MLS in the upcoming years of creating a first division, and most importantly, creating the first ever promotion and relegation league in US soccer history. Now, moving on into the last news I'll talk about. Well, it's not really a news, but more like a preview between NYCFC versus Toronto FC. So, with the way that this is the 4th of July weekend, we're going to have game that's going to be happening on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And also a news flash: I'm going to be going to Texas for this 4th of July weekend. I'm going to be going to the Minnesota versus Dallas game, and then I'm going to go to the Austin LAFC game the very next day. Kind of make a little bit of a Texas road trip, and then conclude by going to the Gold Cup final. That is, I know that sounds like a crazy plan, but you know me in terms of crazy plan that is. But in this one, we have NYCFC versus Toronto. This is the lone Thursday game. It's a rare Thursday game itself. It's also the second time I think NYCFC have play on Thursday. I remember they play on Thursday before, but NYCFC have an 8-4-7 record, whereas TFC have a 4-5-10 record. Now, in terms of head-to-head, 12-7-9 in favor of NYCFC. NYCFC, of course, won the first meeting between both of these teams, winning on the road 1-0. But I have a feeling that this is it will be much tougher now that they face against a TFC side that, like I said, they have looked much more improved under Robin Fraser in recent game. They actually look like a respectable team, and with the way that NYCFC has had their issue when it comes to facing against lowly opposition this season, I mean, they have lost to some of the teams that I would have expected them to win easily, but somehow they find a way to lose. It might not be an easy game as some people would think that NYCFC would face. So yeah, we'll see how this game, of course, will turn out, and that do not be surprised if Toronto can come in to Yankee Stadium in this game and get all 3 points. And if that is the case, then yeah, it is full blown crisis if it hasn't already begun with this NYCFC fan base. Very unhappy in terms of the inconsistency that they have seen their team have gone through throughout this season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for this News of the Week episode and a quick preview of tomorrow's game between NYCFC versus Toronto FC. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.